that same purpose. There is a blessing reserved for those who seek God and His presence. And we're here today for that purpose, to seek Him first. We know that we have very busy lives, a very busy week, and sometimes a lot of challenges. But in the Bible, we're told that we need to take a break, even from life, our day-to-day life, our challenges, and just recognize and acknowledge that God is above us, and that He is the provider, He is the sustainer, and He's the giver of everything that we have. And this is what we're doing here today. We're saying, God, all that we have and all that we do comes from You. Even life, even health, that makes it possible for us to go and study and graduate, right? Or work and do all the things that we need to do. Everything is a gift from God. I especially am very thankful when I look at my life and the way how God has directed my life. I can only but thank God and praise Him. I don't think I'm worthy of such blessings and such mercy and loving kindness that comes from God. But He's a mighty God, and He accepts us as we are, and He makes us better. And that's our hope, that each day we become better and better because we are connected in Him. He's the vine, and we're connected in Him. We're the branches, but He's the source of life in everything that we are. For me, it's a pleasure being here. I'm closer to my community, as it was introduced here. I'm originally from Albania. Pastor told me that he has some Albanian friends that he was invited. I don't know if any of them are here today. Any of you guys here? Because he even told me, ask, and if somebody raises their hand, you say you greet them in Albanian. But I'm going to skip that then. I didn't see any hands. So I'm going to continue in English. But it's amazing to see how God has changed my life. And even a word to the graduates. I've been there, and I think the majority of the adults here have been there, where you've been now. And we've seen how important it is to make a choice, a right choice now, to choosing God and His will and His purpose for you, and how your life will be changed. You see, I was born in Albania, and at the time, I didn't know anything about God. My family and I and everybody else, we were born atheists, and we were taught that God did not exist. So I had absolutely no idea. So for me to be standing here now, today, is wondrous. To even be preaching here and opening a Bible and teaching and sharing from the Bible, it's wondrous, because just a few years ago, I had absolutely no idea what God was. Not who He was, what He was. Absolutely none. I was born in a society that was very highly secular, and it was the only country in the world that had a law. By constitution, we were atheists. So we were not allowed to have a religion. We were not allowed to believe in God. It's the only country in the world that ever did that for over 50 years. So I didn't even know who God was, what God was. I would ask my parents, and they would say, we don't know. And they didn't know. They said, you would learn at school, as you learn biology and physics and math and everything else. So at school we were taught that God did not actually exist, that it was an invention. And they would say, well, it's an invention of the poor who live in the capitalist countries, and they need to come up with a hope for the future. And they come up with God and heaven and all these things. Jesus was a philosopher like Plato or Aristotle. And he lived many years ago, 2,000 years ago, and he had a beautiful doctrine about love and forgiveness and tolerance and acceptance. But he's a philosopher. So that's all I knew about God. Absolutely nothing. And then after communism collapsed, we realized that we were taught a lot of things that weren't actually true. And one of them was about God. And then for the first time in my life, I heard about who God is, who Jesus is, and what He did. And to tell you the truth, when I learned the first time that I stepped into a church, it happened by chance. We know that nothing happens by chance in our lives, right? I was 10-year-old boy with my friends. We were going into a library, public library in my hometown. They had an expo of books, and literature, and magazines, and we would go there every day to look at cars, magazines, and all this, what boys would do. And on the certain day, that expo room was shut, was closed. And so we said, well, let's go to the next room. Maybe they'll transfer it. So we went to the and we opened the door, and it was this huge room. And we see a little group meeting in the little corner there. And we're just staring at them and say, what's going on there? They have a gentleman speaking to them, and they're sitting, and they have some thick books in their hands, and they're flipping them and reading the book. What is this? Someone comes to the door and says, would you like to come in? We're a bunch of kids, noisy kids. And they say, we have kids program. We have little stories from the Bible. And we're saying, what is this? And they say, well, this is a church. This is the Seventh-day Adventist church. We rent this room from the library, and we come here twice a week, and we have meetings here, and we talk about God and with Jesus and the Bible. And those were like all things that I've always wanted to know and never had a chance to learn about. So that's how I initially came to contact with the Bible, with the gospel, with the truth. And I remember the first story that I ever heard was the story of Moses, baby Moses, how his mother and sister put him in the basket and in the river, and he was led to the princes and all that. And since then, I fell in love. I fell in love with God, and I fell in love with Jesus. It was something and someone that I had never heard of, but someone so passionate. And I just embraced that. Amen. And I saw my life being transformed. Amen. So I urge you today, if you are in that point in your life, when a lot of these things that you hear, especially at church, don't make much sense to you because you're so used to that by now. I urge you to have a personal relationship with God, a personal relationship with Jesus, and He will change and transform your life, just as He did with me. Change and transform my life. From there, I then I went to Brazil to continue education. I then sensed the calling of God for ministry, so I went to seminary in Brazil, and then to the UK, and then I got a call here to work here at Greater New York, and I've been here 10 years now. 11 years. So when would I ever imagine back then that little library in my hometown, when I was just looking at Cars magazines, that I would be standing here in front of you sharing my experience of how God changed my life? I would have never imagined. Yet God knew this from the beginning. Even before I was born, He knew about this. And it is so nice to see the fulfillment of God's purpose in your life, in one's life. It doesn't mean that I've done everything right and I do everything perfect, but we try and we strive to do what God's will for us is. So that is actually the success to anything in life, whether it's academic, professional, personal, is when you find what God wants for you, the purpose that God has for you, and you fulfill that in your life. That's true happiness. You will only be happy, truly and fully happy, if you allow God to fulfill the purpose that He has for you in your life. Open the Bibles with me, and I want to read from Jeremiah. We read this earlier today, the text for today, the scripture reading for today. And this is exactly what Jeremiah is saying here. And I'm reading from Jeremiah 29, verse 11. It's a very well-known verse. To many people, it's the favorite verse. So I want to read that with you. But I want to have a prayer with you before we go ahead with the reading of the Bible. So open there, whether it's your device, like in my case, or your actual Bible, Jeremiah 29. Let's have a prayer. Dear God, thank you for the privilege you've given us and the freedom to open your scriptures, your word, the Bible, and to read out of it. We pray that your Spirit may enlighten us today, give us understanding, but more importantly, give us the strength and the clarity to actually put this at play in our own lives, in our experience, in our journey on this earth. In Jesus' name, amen. This is what God says in verse 11. I know the plans that I have for you. This is personal. He's talking to you, and he's talking to me. And he's saying, just so you know, in case you might have forgotten, these are the plans that I have for you. Plans to what? To prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And it's going to be different depending on the version that you're reading. This is the King James Version, right? For I know the thoughts that I have towards you, said the Lord. Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. That's one of the most challenging things in life. Not knowing what to expect. Not knowing the end. And God says, well, I know. And it's not to harm you. It's not to put you through trouble, but it is to give you a future and an expected end. These are beautiful words. As I said before, many people read this and have made these their favorite verses. These words came through the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah was one of the greatest prophets in the Old Testament. But he lived in a time that was very challenging times. Jeremiah received the call to be a prophet, and he saw all that he knew, Jerusalem and everything else, crumble down before his eyes, being destroyed before his eyes. He saw his people being taken hostage and taken into exile. He lived in very, very difficult times. And he had a very important message to his people. But you know the interesting thing? His times were very similar to our times. And his relevant message in his day is very relevant to us today. Jeremiah spoke to the people that were being taken into exile. This is about the year 600, more or less, 604, 605 before Christ. This is the third time that Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians had invested into Jerusalem, meaning they had gone the first time, taken a few people, had taxed them, and gone back. A few years later, they went back to them again, just to remind them, we're the empire, we're the boss here, you need to give us tributes, and you need to give us the taxes. We own you. They went the second time, and then a few years later, they make this third and last investment, but this time they are destructive. This time they decide to destroy everything, to teach them a lesson, because they were unruly in Jerusalem, in Judea. So they go in, they destroy everything in Jerusalem, and they take the people with them into exile, into Babylon. So Jeremiah sees all of that. He's there when they come in and they destroy and they kill people. And they take most of them to Babylon. He's also taken to Babylon. So Jeremiah is speaking to this people of Israel that find themselves in the city, in the great city, but also hostile city of Babylon. These people, they were minding their business, they were minding their lives in Jerusalem, in Judea, but now they find themselves in the greatest city on earth. At the time, Babylon was the greatest city on earth. Babylon was so powerful that it was famous for being invincible. No one could conquer Babylon. They had built this thick, extremely thick walls around Babylon. You know how thick they were? They were thick that they could fit 10 chariots lined up, one across the other. It's pretty much like 95, I-95, both sides of it. That's how thick the walls of Babylon were. And Babylon was a very prosperous city. The truth is that the Medo-Persians, the only way that they conquered Babylon was to channel out the river Euphrates, to lower the level of the water, so they swung from underneath the walls that were impenetrable. They swung underneath, and that's how they took over Babylon. Otherwise, you couldn't bring those walls down never at the time. So Babylon not only was very secure, it was like a fortress, it was a very beautiful city. They say, and it's known, that Babylon had the suspended gardens. They are known as one of the ancient world's miracles, right? Wonders that are not existent, but they know from records and history that they have those beautiful suspended gardens, meaning that they had built out, and they had so much money that now they were building commons and gardens and malls and all that. Some archaeologists and scholars say that Babylon was the first city in history to have flush toilets. Can you imagine that? They lived in this beautiful city. They had everything that they needed. They had a beautiful river run through the city. It would bring them anything that they needed. They had food. They had beautiful architecture. They had people from all over the world, because Babylon had conquered so many places, and they would take the smartest people and the youngest people, and also the hard-working people, and would take them into their city. Babylonians, they were experts in dealing with people from other nations. They would bring them into their city, and they knew that if they mistreated these nations, that they would get unruly, they would organize themselves, and they would overthrow their power and take over. So they wouldn't give them the menial jobs. They wouldn't treat them as slaves. They knew that didn't work. When they would get unruly, they wouldn't expel them either. They wouldn't kick them out. Because they knew that once they had learned everything about Babylon and they were expelled and kicked out, they could organize themselves very well out there and come back stronger and take over. You know what the Babylonians would do? They would assimilate. They would bring the people in and assimilate them. They would show the people that they were brought in all the beautiful things of Babylon. They would show them the buildings, they would show them the gardens, they would show them the highways, they would show them the parks, they would show them the houses, they would show them the cars, they would show them the clothes, they would show them everything that Babylon had. And they would say, you want this? You can have this. It's yours. You can have this job. It's a dream job. You can wear this clothing. You can drive these cars. You can live in this mansion, or you can live in this apartment building, this skyscraper right next to this suspended garden. You can have all of this as long as you become one of us. As long as you relinquish your past, your people, your traditions, your principles, forget about them, of the old world, of the old country where you came from, and as long as you become one of us, then you can seize what we have. You can have this lifestyle. Does it sound familiar to you? Because it sounds very familiar to me and to the days in which we live. And we live in a great city, the city of New York, one of the greatest, if not the greatest city in the world. The attention of the world is here. Whether there are cities that have better infrastructure and better this and better that, yes, but the attention of the world is always in New York City. Whatever happens here catches the attention of the whole world. That's why Frank Sinatra said what he said. If you make it here, you make it anywhere. There is something magical and appealing and attracting about New York City, just as there was something magical and appealing and attracting about Babylon. And they both function with the same methodology, with the same mentality, with the same strategy. And the strategy is, yes, come on in. You can be one of us. You can belong here as long as you become one of us. As long as you forget where you came from and what you stood for, and as long as you take on this new identity, then you will be just fine. What was the first thing that the Babylonians did to Daniel and his friends? They changed what? Their names. They would say, what, Daniel? What kind of name is that? What an immigrant name that is. Well, we have to change that. We need to give you a Babylonian name. Babylonian name. So they changed their names. They don't sound Babylonian to us. If you want to belong, then you have to have our names. What's the second thing that they changed in their life? Their diet, right? They said, what? You don't eat this and you don't eat that? What do you mean? This is Babylon. Maybe you didn't eat this and that back home because you weren't hygienic enough. But this is Babylon. We have our processed meats and we process everything. So you're allowed to eat all of what you want. This is Babylon. You behave differently here. These people of Israel were facing this dilemma. They find themselves in this great city. They're not there because they wanted to be there. They're there by force. And sometimes what brings us into the same dilemma is the force of the circumstances. We were just found in this circumstance, in this situation when we have to deal with this. Then what do? So on one hand, the people of Israel, they had the pressure of Babylon and Babylonians saying, come on, you luring Babylonians, come on, become one of us. Give in, give up, and become one of us. On the other hand, they had many of their leaders that were very well-intentioned, and they would come in and say, you resist Babylon. You hate Babylon. Despise Babylon. Do not accept anything that Babylon has to offer. It's a corrupt city. It's a corrupt society. It's the world, what we say today, right? Yeah. It's the world. The world is coming into your life. The world is coming into the church. Resist it. Don't give in. Resist it. But we have to work in Babylon. We have to work in the world. But we have to live in it. Well, then you go in, you work, and then you come out. As soon as you're done, you come out. So that's what the leaders would tell them. Go in and exploit Babylon. Take from Babylon what Babylon has to offer, the good things. And then leave the rest. And the people in Babylon, hate them, despise them, ignore them, neglect them. Because they will infect you. And you have principles. And you are an Israelite. You are the people of God. You cannot allow Babylon and the world to come to creep into your life, into your family, and to infect you. Actually, the previous chapter, if you read it, and read it this afternoon later at home, the previous chapter, chapter 28, you see there is a prophet Hananiah. And this prophet actually says, hello, people, God revealed himself to me. And he told me that you have to hang on. That it's not going to be long, just a couple of years, and God will take us out of this place. And in this chapter, 28 to 29, God appears before Jeremiah, and he says, don't listen to the prophets that you have called. I haven't called them. I haven't given them any messages. Don't listen to them. They're not speaking from me. They're speaking from their own thing, from the dreams that they dream themselves, that you make them dream. But doesn't it sound a lot like what we hear nowadays? Well, these people, and they were good intention people. They had a good intention. They wanted to safeguard the youngsters. They wanted to safeguard themselves and their people. And they were saying, you're Israelites, you're the people of God. You're not to allow yourself to get infected with Babylon. But even you have to work, well, go and exploit Babylon. Do what you got to do, but come out. Don't we say that even with the cities? We say, oh, you're not to live in the city. You're to live in the country. Because the city, you just go in, you work, and then you come out. And then recently, they found a lot of quotations from Ellen G. White where she says that people, we need to go and work in the cities. And she talks about New York City, that New York City is the symbol and should be a symbol to the world. Cities, what we do here should be modeled into the other cities on how to reach people who live in the cities. Did you know that in 2013, 52% of the world's population, more than half, this is in 2013, 3 years ago, 53% of the world's population lived in cities. The trend nowadays, from now on into the future, is that the majority of the people in the world will live in big urban areas. The population and the world is shifting, is changing. So what do we do as Seventh-day Adventists, Christians? How do we live our lives? Where do we live? Do we live in the city, or should we go out in the country? Then who will save the city and the people who live in the city? This was the same dilemma that the people of Israel were facing. From one hand, they had Babylon saying, come, become one of us, give in, come on, look at how nice it is. And on the other hand, they had the tribalists, right? And they would say, no, resist, despise, get away from the city, from the world, don't give in. And then God, as with everything, there is one side of the story, there's the other side of the. Have you realized that as a pastor you see that a lot in couples counseling? There's always, you listen to one spouse and you know that that's only one side of the story. But then you need to listen to the other spouse and you know that that's the other side of the story. And then somewhere in the middle there's the truth. So on one side they have Babylon, on the other side they have their leaders, and in the middle, in the center, there's God. And God shows himself to Jeremiah, and he says, this is what I have to tell the people of Israel living in Babylon. This is what I have to tell you, members of Morris Park, New Yorkers who live in New York City. Very similar to the pressures and to the challenges that these people had to face in Babylon 2,600 years ago. Jeremiah 29:4. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those that I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. First of all, God is saying, this is me. It's not some Hananiah prophet. It's not some crazy dude who had some dream and is coming up and spilling his beans. This is God, and I'm God, and I have a message for you. And second, he says, I have carried you to be, I have caused it for you to be carried away. Meaning that God has everything under control. You haven't come here to Babylon by chance. I have caused. I have allowed it for you to be here. So you live here in New York City. You moved here. You were born here. It's not just, don't think that it's all by chance and because of the circumstances, because I got fired or because I got offered a job or because of this or because of that. No. I caused it for you to move here, for you to be born here, for you to work here, for you to study here, for you to live here. I caused it, says God. I carried you into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. And this is what he says to the people, and this is what he says to us. Build houses and settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so that you too may have sons and daughters. So that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there and do not decrease. Wait a minute. What do you mean, God? If we are supposed to live here in Babylon, we're supposed to live here in New York City, and we're supposed to live our lives to the fullest, and have children, and have grandchildren, and plant trees, and you know how long a tree takes to produce fruit. So, isn't this, wait a minute, are we supposed to get out of here? Or maybe just come here during the week, or during the day, just exploit, take what they have to give us and come out? What do you mean? Live your lives and have children and settle down and build houses and plant gardens. What do you mean? Look at what he says. Do not let, verse 8, yes, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel says, do not let your prophets and the diviners among you deceive you. Do not listen to the dreams you encourage them to have. God is saying, I'm not encouraging them, I'm not giving them these dreams, you are. And you make them diviners, and you make them prophets, and you make them leaders, and they tell you what you want to hear. That's not me. They are prophesying lies to you in my name. I have not sent them, declares the Lord. Not 2 years, not 3, not 4, verse 10 in their case, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my good promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So you see, even that promise there, even that beautiful verse that we started off this morning with, that is given within context. And the context is fulfilling God's purpose, God's plan for you. So if you do that, if I do that, then He will bless it. Then These words will be fulfilled. So these are not just beautiful verses for you and I to have, to pick at Vespers and to spend the Sabbath thinking of those. No, it's about the lifestyle that you and I are called to have. And that lifestyle has to fulfill the purpose that God has for you and for me. But you know the key to how to live your life in the Babylon that you live, in the Babylon that I live, in New York City? The key is verse 7. And I skipped it on purpose. Yes, you are to live your life. Yes, you are to build houses. Yes, you are to plant gardens. Yes, you are to have children and grandchildren and live your life to the fullest. As long as you do this, seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. When was the last time that you prayed for your community? When was the last time that you prayed for New York City and the people of New York City? God has called us and has caused us to come and live here so that we can save this city. Not just live here. God calls them to go and live in Babylon. Not just to live their lives in Babylon, not just to build gardens in Babylon, not just to build houses and mansions in Babylon, not just to go to school in Babylon, not just to go to university, not just to go and get the best jobs in Babylon, but they were to live in Babylon to seek the peace and the prosperity of that city. Do you know what it means to seek the peace of the city? This word in Hebrew, the original, is the famous shalom. Do you know what shalom in the biblical mindset, in the biblical context means? It's not just a fancy way of wishing happy Sabbath to someone, right? It's not just saying Shabbat Shalom. This word shalom, which is translated as peace or prosperity, what this word in Hebrew means in the context, in the biblical context, is the flourishing of all areas of life. The flourishing of all areas of life. So you see, in the Bible, we're not seen as a person like we do. You see, we in the Western world, in the Western culture, we are influenced by the Greek philosophy. We think Greek. We don't speak Greek, but we think Greek. And in the Greek way of thinking, you compartmentalize everything. You divide everything, right? Because for us to understand something, we need to take that something, just like what we do in biology. We have to take it, dissect it, study it, analyze it, learn it, and then we say, okay, now I know. But it's that. That's the Greek way of doing things. And it's hard for us because that's how we are wired. That's how we are wired. We do things, that's how we do things. For instance, you say, have you heard this, someone say, or maybe you have said it, my personal life has nothing to do with my professional life. Have you heard that? My personal life does not affect my professional life. And it's not true. It is not true, because your personal life does affect your professional life, because you are one person. You're not three or four different persons. You're not that goes to work, and then one that comes at home, and then another one that goes to school, and then another one that goes out to the neighbors. You're one person. But in our way of thinking, we compartmentalize everything. It's the Greek dichotomy, right? You divide everything in order to understand it. And in the Bible, we are seen as one. As one. And you have different areas, different facets, different aspects. Even it's hard to explain it because we think in divisions. So it's hard to explain something different of that. So what the Bible says, when you wish shalom, peace or prosperity unto someone, you wish that their life flourishes in all areas of it. All areas of life flourishing. So when God is saying, seek the shalom of the city, the prosperity of the city, what he means in practical terms is the building where you live needs to be a better building because you live there. The floor in which you live needs to be a better floor because you live there. The street where you live needs to be a better street because your house is there. The avenue where you're at, where you worship, needs to be a better place because your church, where you congregate, where you come to fellowship, is there. With other words, if you're not making a difference, if you're not making your place of work, your place of living, your place of study better, you're not fulfilling God's purpose for you. You're not seeking the prosperity, the peace, the shalom of the city. You're not doing what God is. You're just living life, which is fine, is your right to live it, but you're not living it right. So God is saying, yes, I've caused you to come here. I've caused you. All that you have, there is a purpose for it. But you will only be successful if you fulfill that purpose and if you realize that you need to do it in order to save others, in order to reach out to others, in order to make your place a better place. This was the purpose of the people of Israel from the Old Testament times. They were to live a different life so that the people, when God took them out of Egypt, He told them, this is the code, this is the lifestyle that you are to have. So that when other people look at you, they will be in wonder and they will say, wow, look at how she lives her life. Look at how she deals with grief and loss. You know, once I was at this funeral, a person close to me, and I was one of the people who spoke at the funeral. And they were streaming this funeral online, on Facebook, and they had put on the link on Facebook. It was a well-known person. Many people had prayed for that person, and many people could not be there, so they were streaming it online. A few days later, I get a personal message on Facebook from someone I had never met in my life. And this person says, you don't know me, you've never met me, but I was just surfing the web, I was on Facebook, and I came across to this page. I had come across to this page months ago, and I had something caught my attention, and there was a request for a prayer for this person, and I started praying for this person. And then a couple of days ago, I went online to kind of see what was going on and to get an update, and I realized that the person had passed, and that there was this funeral. So I clicked on the link, and I was watching you speaking, and I was amazed of how you speak about death with no fear, and how you speak about death with hope. And she says, I am a nurse, and I work, she was a hospice nurse, and she said, I deal with death and dying people on a daily basis. And to this day, I don't know how to deal with death. I am terrified of death, she says. I am afraid of dying. I don't know what will happen to me. I don't even want to think about it. I'm terrified. But when I heard you talk about death in that manner, that death is just not a pause, that if you believe and you trust in God and in Jesus, you will be resurrected on the day that He comes, and you will receive eternal life. She says, I want to learn about that. Can you teach me? Is this how all Seventh-day Adventists believe? She says, can you teach me? And she even asked, can I come into the church? Will they accept me the way I am? Do I have to wear something special? And I said, please, come as you are. We started studying the scriptures. I connected her with the local pastor of the local church, and she received Bible studies and she got baptized. She learned about the truth like that. Why? Because she was impressed by the way how we live our lives. This is what the godly people are called to do, to have a lifestyle that is different, a lifestyle that draws attention and says, that's how they deal with it. Wow, I want to be like that. I don't want to have the despair. I don't want to have the fear. I want to live like that. Teach me. This is what God told the people in the Old Testament. This is what He tells us today. Go and live your lives to the fullest. Seek the shalom of the city where you live. Pray to God for the city. For if the city, the community where you live, where you study, where you work, prospers, finds shalom, meaning flourishing of all areas of life, and that includes the arts, and that includes politics, and that includes social work. You see, as Seventh-day Adventists, we concentrate, and Christians in general, we concentrate a lot in mercy ministries, right? Mercy ministries is for example, a food pantry, or a soup kitchen, or helping the needy, helping the homeless. But how about and we should continue to give the food to the poor and to those in need. But how about going a step further, a level higher, and going to the cause, to the reason of why that person is homeless? Is the church powerful enough? Has the church resources enough to go and say, well, we can help you get you out of this place? So that's what God is calling us to do. That is the flourishing of all areas of life. Yes, you can give them food once, give them food twice. You can ask them, not someone who's substance dependent. You can help them on a weekend, you can help them on a week, on a month. But how about going into their lives and transforming their lives? How about making the difference in their lives so that they will not fall back to that, but they will have a system of support? So when we talk about the shalom, it's not just our way of thinking. It's not just the patching. It's not just the band-aid. But it is the thorough removing, the surgical removing. That is the calling that God has for you and for me. We speak of church and us, but many psychologists say that when we use the plural, it's a way of excluding ourselves. When I say we, what I'm saying is you. So that's why I don't like to say the we. I say the I and the you. This is what God is calling you and me to do. To make a difference. To seek the shalom of the city, of the community where you are. So my question to you today is this. How is it that you are going to bring full flourishing of all areas of life in your community? How is it that you are going to bring shalom in your community, in your school, in your workplace, in your neighborhood, in your building, in your street? How is it that you are going to make their lives better? Not just for the sake of living a better life, but for the sake of their salvation and yours and mine too. We are in this world to do what Jesus did. And He said, I've come here to seek and save. To seek and save. And we are here in this world to seek and to save. That's our purpose. That's our calling. How are you going to seek the shalom and the prosperity of your city, of your community? I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and pray to me, and I will listen to you. It's almost like God saying, how can I listen to you if you're not doing your part? If you're only selfishly praying to me and asking for blessings only upon you. How? Then you will call me. When you fulfill this, you will call unto me, you will pray unto me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me, and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart. So not only I've given you a question, but I've asked you a question, but I've also given you an answer. How will you impact? How will you seek the shalom and the prosperity of your community? It is when you and I truly seek God with all of our hearts and with all of our soul. And when we seek Him and when we ask Him, He will listen to us.
Yes, sir.
But it starts with little acts of kindness.
Yes, sir.
Random acts of kindness. It starts with little things, little changes that you make in your life.
Yes, sir.
So my appeal to you today, whether you are a graduate or you are graduating in the school of life, which is something that we never graduate until that day when we receive the diploma from Jesus. So what will you do and how will you? This is my appeal to you. Decide today to be an agent of shalom, an agent of prosperity, an agent of peace, an agent that will make a difference in someone's life for God's glory and for their salvation. That is my appeal to you today, individually, but also as a church, as a beautiful church you are, the beautiful people that you are, the talented and skilled people that you are, the beautiful gift that you have of this building, how this building can be a blessing to this community. That is the challenge that I leave with you today. And that is the calling that God has for you and for me, to make each church, and this is the purpose even of our multi-ethnic ministries at the conference, to make each multi-ethnic church in our territory a community church. Not a commuter church when you commute to come to church on Sabbath. We don't want you to be 7-Eleven Christians. You don't want 7-Eleven Christians, not the big golf, not 7-Eleven. It's the Christians that are Christians on the 7th day at 11 o'clock. That's not going to make a difference anywhere. Coming to church on the 7th day and at 11 o'clock, it's not going to make a difference in anyone's life. We need to become community churches, not commuter churches. People who make the difference in their community. So you actually and virtually do not need this place, because you can make that difference where you are. That is your world to save. God has entrusted us all over the world to save. God has given you your neighbors, your co-workers, He's given you your friends at school. They are your world to see and to save. May God bless you, and may God fulfill this purpose in your life today and every day from now on. Amen. Praise God. Lord, as we stand here today before you, we sense that we need to make a commitment before you and before the people that you have entrusted us with to save. Help us to fulfill our purpose as Christians, as people who live in today's Babylon, New York City. Help us to make sense of who we are, what we do, and what we stand for, so that in everything that we do, we may seek the prosperity, the shalom, the peace of our communities. And may we, Lord, through you, save as many souls as possible. In Jesus' name, I ask for this